Dear friends and colleagues, I'd like to just get our program underway, so I'd like to just invite you to kind of move a little towards the middle so that I can invite our two guests and our legend. So, Deputy Secretary Burns, can I invite you to come take a seat on the podium? Ambassador, DG, friend, Linda. You both know Ted Wilkinson? So I said I've got management over here and I've got AFSA. No, just kidding. We're all part of one big family. So I'd like to just start by welcoming you all. A very warm welcome. It's really a pleasure to see you here in this beautiful room. My name, if you don't know it, is Susan Johnson. I'm the president of the American Foreign Service Association. And this is a very special occasion, so I thank you for joining us in celebrating the brand new look of the Foreign Service Journal, as well as the history and contributions of the Foreign Service to U.S. diplomacy. We're going to take just a few moments at the start of our celebration today to say a few words about the Foreign Service, AFSA, and the Foreign Service Journal in particular. We are very honored to have with us Deputy Secretary of State Bill Burns and Director General Linda Thomas-Greenfield. They've both agreed to make a few remarks in celebration of today's relaunch of the journal, which has been published continuously now for an impressive 88 years. And that is really something to note. I think that puts us in company of some other pretty eminent journals, and now I forget which one, but it's Foreign Affairs and things like that, at least that old. I'm also very pleased to be joined today here with one of our AFSA legends, as we like to say, Ted Wilkinson, a great diplomat and a lifelong supporter of the Foreign Service and of AFSA. Ted served both as AFSA president and as chairman of the Foreign Service Journal editorial board, and I think he did more than a decade in that role. Anyway, thank you, Ted. I'd like to briefly recognize people who have really made today happen, and that is members of the AFSA governing board, the journal editorial board, and its chairman, Jim Sievers. Jim, yeah, I see you now. Thank you. The staff of the magazine, Steve Honley. Steve, where are you? There you are. Susan Matra, must be here too, okay. Sean Dorman, Ed Miltenberg, and Donna Ayerst, as well as AFSA's executive director, Ian Houston. It's their hard work that has truly paid off in the beautiful new magazine that if you don't have in your hands, I hope you will afterwards as you leave, because there should be some copies left to the right of the door. I'm very pleased also to see many people here who are important to AFSA and the journal alike. Former AFSA presidents John Nayland, Al Laporta, Marshall Adair, Dennis Hayes, Tom Boyat, and Ted himself. They're all here, as are numerous members of the former Governing Board and former Foreign Service Journal editorial board. And I'd like to also especially welcome Charles Ford, Acting Director General of the Foreign Commercial Service, who is in fact a former AFSA Governing Board member himself. And I'm pleased to welcome some colleagues from the diplomatic community here, the embassies of Bulgaria, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Finland, and Malta. It's a pleasure to have you. I do want to read now a lovely congratulatory note that we received from Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton, who unfortunately couldn't be here with us this afternoon. But she sent this note: "Dear friends, I'm delighted to extend my greetings to all those gathered to mark the launch of the newly redesigned Foreign Service Journal. While I regret my schedule does not permit me to be with you on this special occasion, I want to commend all those involved in the production and redesign of this celebrated institution. As Secretary of State, I've become intimately familiar with the outstanding content of the Foreign Service Journal. Indeed, my colleagues and I look forward to the varying viewpoints represented in the wide-ranging articles that are a hallmark of the magazine, representing the views and experiences of our colleagues in the field, whether Foreign Service, civil service, or locally employed staff, as well as the opinions of past and present colleagues. A publication of this magnitude that has been in existence since the 1920s is due for a little refurbishment every once in a while, and I'm confident that this new design and format will only serve to enhance the visual experience and amplify the already enlightening content. I'm constantly reminded of the many great services that the American Foreign Service Association offers to its members, both current employees and retirees. The Foreign Service Journal is a fine example of one of the many ways in which the association contributes to the greater good of the Foreign Service and to the U.S. Department of State as a whole. I'm confident it will always be cherished by those who have the opportunity and the good sense to enjoy its substance. Here's to another 100 years of success. With congratulations and best regards, sincerely yours, Hillary Rodham Clinton. So thank you very much, Secretary Clinton. I'd now like to turn the podium over to Deputy Secretary Bill Burns, who will say a few words. Bill?
Good afternoon, everyone. It really is a pleasure to join all of you this afternoon, and it is an honor to help you celebrate the launch of the newly redesigned Foreign Service Journal. I've always subscribed to the old adage that a speaker should finish speaking before his audience finishes listening, so I promise to be brief so you can get to the cake and champagne. As a proud AFSA member for 30 years, I speak from personal experience when I say thank you. Thank you for honoring and taking care of all of those remarkable diplomats who came before us, for advocating for today's diplomats, and for reaching out to tomorrow's. The terrible losses of last month of Ambassador Chris Stevens and his 3 fine colleagues remind us of the truth at the heart of AFSA's mission. We are not just a group of diplomats and bureaucrats. This is a family. We serve together, we grieve together, we spend many of the most meaningful moments of our lives together. And wherever we travel, wherever we serve, the Foreign Service Journal keeps us abreast of the latest family news. This magazine is part of our collective heritage. It is a living history of this department and how we tap into and connect with the tremendous talents and rich experiences of those who travel in and out of our lives. It always makes for interesting reading. One of the perverse side effects of WikiLeaks was to remind the world that the Foreign Service has talented writers and thinkers within its ranks. But anyone who has been reading the Foreign Service Journal has known this for a very long time. Since its founding in 1924, the journal has been a public square for debate, a message board full of news about our community and for suggestions on ways to improve, as well as an insightful and entertaining read about life from Ashgabat to Zanzibar. In the last 18 months alone, its bylines have included seasoned diplomats and leading policy experts such as Mike Posner, Susan Burke, Michael Battle, Ben Davies, and Kissinger. Now, for the first time since 1994, the journal has been completely redesigned. The new Foreign Service Journal will offer a more human face and more pictures to match the multimedia age we live in. The new design is tech-savvy. It makes it easier for computer illiterates like me to thumb through it online, and almost seamless for all you iPhone addicts. As Steve Jobs would say, there's an app for that. Alongside the 17,000 copies sent out to every U.S. embassy, consulate, and mission, to every foreign embassy in Washington, to congressional offices, think tanks, and major universities, the new Foreign Service Journal will now be beamed through the ether to smartphones across the world. Of course, we all know from experience that not all change is good change. But I think our friends at AFSA got this one exactly right. I'm assured that today's Foreign Service Journal will retain the things that we love most about the old journal. This means we will still have cartoons to cut out and post on the office or kitchen door. It also means we can still look forward to those cantankerous letters to the editor and to the honest policy and institutional debates which help make us better at our profession. When I looked through the latest issue of the new Foreign Service Journal, I was struck most by its cover, a story on the new Foreign Service generation, about those who have come into the service under the latest diplomatic readiness and leadership initiatives at State and USAID. It is a striking fact that more than half of today's Foreign Service was sworn in after 9/11. So it's fitting that an overhauled magazine is turning its focus to an organization undergoing a redesign of its own. I look forward to seeing how the journal follows this story. The Foreign Service Journal is the voice of the Foreign Service family, a professional family that I am incredibly proud to be part of. The truth is that we are extraordinarily lucky to be asked to advance peace and prosperity, to serve the American people and bring a measure of possibilities to the lives of people around the world on behalf of the country we love. We are lucky to have a chance to make a difference. We are lucky to find not just a career, but a calling and a community. Congratulations to AFSA on a terrific redesign, and thanks again to AFSA for all you do to serve our community, our country, and our world. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bill, for those moving remarks. I'd now like to turn the podium over to our next speaker, Ambassador Linda Thomas Greenfield, the Director General of the Foreign Service, and our gracious host for this afternoon's reception.
Thank you very much, and good afternoon. I am so pleased to be invited here to the relaunch of the Foreign Service Journal. Someone asked me as we were thinking about what I should say if I could come up with something personal, and I couldn't come up with anything until I was sitting here just now. Having been in the Foreign Service for 30 years and married to a Foreign Service specialist who retired after 31 years, one of the challenges that we had as a tandem is that we got 2 copies of the Foreign Service Journal, and we could never really figure out how to stop getting one of those copies. But I think with the new journal launch and the fact that you will be more readily accessible online, I will tell my husband he has to figure out how to get it online. I still, as Bill, want my hard copy so that I can read it at my desk and at my leisure and not at a computer, because I'm not computer savvy as well. So thank you again for inviting me, and thank you again for being such a great partner over many, many years. As Secretary Clinton letters stated, and very nicely, the Foreign Service Journal really captures the viewpoints of all of our colleagues, and it helps us to forge a sense of culture, identity, unity, and family in the Foreign Service. This is important because we all have a role to play in making our country and our world safer and more secure. Secretary Clinton and I believe strongly in the one team, one mission concept, whether we're talking about our civil service employees, our Foreign Service employees in Washington, or our Foreign Service locally engaged staff. And we all look forward to receiving our Foreign Service Journal on a monthly basis. And I've many times seen our LE staff looking at the magazine and reading the magazine with great interest. My colleagues and I in HR also consider the journal to be a very important outreach tool that gives potential recruits a sense of the culture of the State Department. So while you never saw it as a recruitment tool, we've always viewed it as a recruitment tool. But I think more importantly, since 1924, the journal has kept us all informed about the Foreign Service and about issues that are important to all of us, and it's kept us informed about what is happening with our colleagues throughout the world in many places in the world. With over 30,000 readers, you reach a lot of people, both in and out of the Foreign Service, and I want to congratulate you again today for your efforts. We look forward to continuing to work closely with AFSA and with the journal to keep readers updated on issues of interest to the Foreign Service and the department as a whole. And I know as we move forward today, we're thinking about our colleagues who are no longer here with us, who were victims of terrorism. And I know that at some time in the future in May, we will be working with AFSA to place their names on the Board of Honor. Thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you very much, Linda. I'd now like to just say a few words myself, and first of all, a shout out to Eason Associates who helped us in this work of design. I think they're here today, and we very much appreciate the excellent professional help and support that they gave us. So thank you very much for that. The redesigned Foreign Service Journal has a new look and a style that's going to provide the flexibility that's so important in our fast-paced world while maintaining its quality as a serious commentator on foreign service issues. It will continue to be the treasure trove of views, insights, and accounts of varied experiences of its many contributors who have distinguished themselves in diplomacy and in our diplomatic service. An underlying focus of the journal is to reflect on challenges ahead and ways to strengthen the Foreign Service, the State Department, and American diplomacy in the years to come. So let me take this opportunity to call out and invite everyone, Foreign Service, Civil Service, or others, to think seriously about contributing to the journal. We need and value your involvement in producing your magazine, so don't be shy about that. I'd like now to welcome Ted Wilkinson to the podium.
Well, Susan, thank you very much for the earlier introduction, although I'm not quite sure I like the age implications of becoming a legend. This is an auspicious occasion. Times change, and every magazine needs a shot of adrenaline to help it adjust to new times. Where would Cosmopolitan have been without Helen Gurley Brown? Back in the dark ages with Red Book and Ladies' Home Journal. Okay, so the Foreign Service Journal isn't going to compete with Cosmo, and maybe not get into the mass market, although who knows, we might. If we reprinted yesterday's dramatic committee hearings about September 11th in Benghazi. How should the Foreign Service Journal adjust? Should it be purely for a niche clientele of the Foreign Service, by the Foreign Service, for the Foreign Service? Well, the Foreign Service Association is supposed to be the voice of the Foreign Service. At least that's what we put on our coffee cups. And I would submit that we don't want to use that voice just to talk to ourselves. Of course not. We should continue sending the magazine routinely, as we do now, to key legislators and policymakers and to scores of libraries across the country. But this presents a challenge for the editorial board and our fine staff. Naturally, we have to address the job-related concerns, and we do surveys, and we find that people want to know more about their professional jobs in the journal than our Foreign Service subscribers always tend to focus on. But at the same time, we need to convey an image of a Foreign Service that's a Foreign Service constituency that's intellectually curious, open to criticism from inside and out, and resilient enough to change to changing administration priorities. In my view, accomplishing both goals means we have to address national issues that don't come up every day on Foreign Service officers' screens. Yet they also have an impact on our jobs and our foreign relations. Things like U.S. drug control policies, climate change issues, world demography and migration, trying to ride the tidal wave of information change, just to name a few. For those of you who like this kind of challenge, serving on the journal editorial board can be rewarding, certainly as it was for me. You can certainly count on the support of that wonderful and experienced Foreign Service Journal staff that Susan Johnson identified earlier, led by Editor Steve Moon. And along with all of you, I'm looking forward with eager interest to the new project as we approach the 100th anniversary of the Foreign Service Journal. Thank you.
turn these two directions and keep the microphone with you. And thank you all. This really concludes the official portion of our celebration. And I think all of us have come together, and it's been mentioned by our speakers, but the journal itself and all of us, I like to think that we're here also honoring all of our fallen colleagues and remembering them, despite the hearing that was referred to yesterday, which was a sort of sad commentary on a very serious business for us and something we all feel in our hearts. But I hope you will stay now and enjoy some refreshments and food and drink. I know some people were fortunate enough maybe to start ahead of time, but please don't leave us with all of this and help us finish it up before you leave. And don't forget to take home with you a commemorative poster. You'll find copies to the left of the door there when you leave. Those are sort of party favors, so to speak, so take one with you. At some point, that'll be a historic poster. And please, in case you'll see when you look at it, that it's got 12 covers from the history of the Foreign Service Journal. Its first cover in 1924, and the last one, the most recent one anyway, today. So please do take one. And I'd like to thank all of you, and please enjoy one another and continue to celebrate here. Thank you all.